history. And I'm just wondering if that can be one of the stations that can be thoroughly looked at. And then you also mentioned the issue about elevator repairs, and many people know ahead of time. We've always advocated for information to be shared at the entrance of the station so that people don't make a decision to go into that particular station and maybe look at other alternatives. Because it doesn't make sense for them to go into the stations and then have to turn back. So it's just something to consider. I mean, with new technology, I don't know if we do rolling things at the stations, but those are the two things.
We're in process of putting out what we're calling customer information screens, or customer information center, which has 3 to 4 screens. So they will be, it's part of our concession, our advertising concession with Upfront, right? All of the paper ads that you see currently, I guess they're vinyl, that you see at the platforms, they're all going to be converted to digital signage over the next 5 years. So as part of that agreement, we're now getting digital signs before you enter the fare gate. Some of those signs will appear above the stairs, so that's great. And some of the panels will be next to elevators. They're not all next to elevators, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
But we get the point that it's really irritating that you go in, you put your token in, oh, not token, you put your I think I'm still in Toronto, because they still do have tokens there. See, we are light years ahead of the curve. You swipe your card, and then you find, damn it, why didn't they tell us the service isn't value? So we do get that, we need to fix that. To the first point about the station renos, I mean, because we want to be customer-led, I would like this plan to be our plan, not my plan, not Sarah's plan, but our plan. And I think we can build this, and this is how we'll get the money, I think, if we build this irresistible, unstoppable coalition so the politicians will have to listen and give this plan money. And the way to do that, one of the ways to do that is to give you input into it. So to the point about how do we choose the stations, it is informed by state of good repair, and it may not be things that you can see. It's when we do the intrusive drilling or whatever, we find the platforms in a real mess. But I would like you, the Riders Council, to have input into that. So I think I can commit to that, particularly where we get into 150 stations over 5 years.
I'll take back the 205th Street request.
Yeah.
There's been talk in the past about having local businesses sponsor and pay for stations. Is that something within your bailiwick, and if so, what's your position on it?
So I think it was known as Adopt a Station, and I can't say I'm an expert on that yet. I found out about it a few weeks ago actually, and I've been sent some info that I've yet to read. But in terms of the principle, I like the principle. I mean, sometimes you get controversy around that. People saying we're not having stations renamed like, I don't know, Barclays, but Barclays is actually, but not for the rest. No, it's not for the but yeah, Google station, Amazon station, whatever. I think it doesn't have to include naming rights, but definitely we should be more imaginative. So I'm not philosophically opposed to it. I think both engaging local businesses to improve their local station that their employees use is a good idea. Definitely we want to engage with business to say, well, if you want, or say developers, if you want to build a 70-story tower block and actually really want 5 extra stories, you can have the 5 extra stories. This is for the city, but you'll have to pay for an elevator while you're at it.
Yes, and then Stuart, and then we're going to go to the public.
As the person who ran a doctor station while I worked there, I would just take the office and go to you and tell you its inception and what worked and also what didn't work. And the other thing that I would ask, based on my experience of 2 weeks ago and others, while we are all waiting for these wonderful electronic marvels that are going to be appearing, can we do something immediately with just paper and pen or something that you just put something up, a sign, an old-fashioned sign, when there is a problem, when a train isn't running, so that you could not have the kind of experience I did going down 4 flights of stairs and all the rest.
There are lots of signage, right, that's printed and put out.
But it's not.
But I am going to get back to your letter. There were trains running that day.
Yes,
so
there were.
you received, right, incorrect information from a contractor. The problem is, right, I don't know how to talk to those contractors. That doesn't mean that we're not gonna fix it. We're gonna look at it and fix it. But trains were running that
Well,
day.
that was just an example, because it happens all the time. But
Understood.
we'll talk about that.
Yes.
Stuart.
So you've been looking at things from top to bottom. Are you comfortable where the authority is with the rollout to the successor of the MetroCard? Because you've worked in other cities
I
that have this
and
technology already.
Yes, and it's not easy. I tell you one thing I am comfortable about, though, and I'm so grateful for, having been through one false start and then a still quite problematic rollout where the solution was homegrown. And the false start was Sydney, and in fact it slightly predated me, but when I turned up in Rail Corporate Sydney, you could still see these posts with these sort of steadily perishing rubber sort of receptacles on a failed attempt to do a homegrown Sydney smart card, and that got abandoned, and I'll come back to that point. And then Toronto the TTC was kind of forced to go with what's called Presto, which is an Ontario homegrown solution, which has some advantages, but was kind of reinventing the wheel and not learning from previous rollouts. So I was so glad when I heard that what we're doing is buying a cubic product. Why? Because it's basically like Oyster, and Oyster is a proven product. So what Sydney did was, once this system they called the T-card failed, they just it went out and bought Oyster and called it Opal. Because that's the stone of New South Wales. So on the one hand, I'm very glad that we're buying a proven product with a company that know what they're doing. On the other, I don't underestimate how difficult it is to progressively, on a multimodal system, in a phased manner, introduce a smart card. That's not going to be easy, but in answer to your question, so far from what I've seen, I think the plan looks pretty good.
And Cubic made the current turnstile, so it'll be an easy conversion.
They know what they're doing. They've done it in a lot of places.
Kevin?
Yes, I have a question. So why they bring the service cuts over in 2010 June? Because it has low ridership and it discontinued. So I want to make sure to bring back the B71 bus along Union Street.
We'll hand it to
Don't forget, at the end of the day, you're talking to transit professionals for whom cuts are anathema. Cutting, I don't want to cut services, but it's easy to, with the greatest of respect, to be on the sidelines saying, why do they do that? We have to deal with the vagaries of politics sometimes and the harsh realities of budgets. So it is about choices, and sometimes you've got to make tough choices. This year, right now, and I'm just finalising it, I'm facing a huge budget savings target.
Yeah.
And that is not going to be dealt with by cutting down on paper clips or sacking a secretary. It's big, and so it is about tough choices. So, I'm sure that no one wanted to do that, but at the end of the day, our job's about now making the case to give transit the funding it needs.
Yeah.
Charlton?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Byford. I just wanted to thank you for responding to me on Facebook about the overnight service. But my big issue is night owl bus service. I live in Southeast Queens, live in Queens Village, and sometimes it takes me 3 hours to get home at night. I have to, if I take the Q60 over the bridge, I can do the trip in an hour and 30 minutes. So can you please, I'm begging you, can you please add Q32 and Q60 overnight service? At least one bus every 30 minutes, give us something. And if they could put articulated buses on the Q60 at night, because JFK Depot, its union already approved the articulated buses. They're already using the Arctics. So why isn't it being used at least overnight on Q60? Because right now, it runs every 30 minutes. And the problem is you can't get on the bus because it's so crowded. And the cabs are charging people $75 to $100.
Yeah.
And it's really devastating for the night workers.
Yeah, okay, so, absolutely, it's the railroad, but we will take that away and have a look at it. I mean, redeployment of vehicles, which are already in our fleet, it's a lot easier and more quicker to achieve than adding service, which obviously, which you have to prepare, you have to get the budget, you have to get the crews, potentially get more vehicles. And again, it's back to my point about the budgets and tough choices. And everyone wants service in their borough as well. So it is about choices and assigning scarce resource and funding to the best, most compelling case. But if one of your points is putting our ticks on at the existing frequency
Just
to
one
make
or
a
two
difference,
buses.
we will have a lot of ticks.
Thank you. Mr. X?
Thank you.
I gave you 4 agendas. Okay, I'm about to announce 2 more. Whenever you disrupt bus service, you need to post signs at the bus stop saying what streets don't run on, diversion-wise. Not put me in a position where I stand on Manhattan Avenue at Huron Street like a penguin on Discover it's running McGillis Boulevard, which happened to me over 17 years ago. And I told Andy several times, and so far I haven't got to Andy and company several times, never got a response. That's annoying and disturbing. You put me in a position where I treat like a penguin, and then when I bring it to your attention, you give me a smart ass remark, but you just ignore me. I don't play that. There's something else I have another concern. I got a concern about those cops who are assigned to the transit bureaus. Okay, years ago, they started to speak to station agents. They approached me and said, you have to leave the station or the train to the station. They should be concerned about patrolling the stations, not stopping me from staying warm, not stopping me from speaking to station agents, not stopping me from sitting down and relaxing on the platforms. Okay, so you need to address those 2 issues in addition to the 4 issues I already gave you.
Have the people
Yeah.
on the
Yeah, sure.
diverted street find out that.
Sure. I mean, yeah. What you'll get from me is a straight answer, and I'm not going to look back at the past. I've got quite enough to do to look forward to the future. Right? That's my focus. I'm going to take this company forward, and I'm going to look at making things better for the here and now and in the future, not look at things that happened in the distant past. But having said that, I agree that the Transit Police Bureau police should treat people respectfully. I expect them to do that. That's something I regularly talk to the police chief about. And in terms of where we are making diversions on a bus route, we've got to find a better way with real-time information, the kind of technology Sarah was talking about, to let people know and via their phones what's going on. I mean, if it's something that's literally just happened because some of the accidents occurred or the FDNY fighting a fire, then it might be that the first couple of buses just have to divert before we've been able to tell people. But we owe it to you to give you a proper explanation.
Yes.
Yes, the L train, during the L train, before the L train shut down, I was considering that, it's better for the R143s to have a better strip map in case it goes over to the J line.
We keep the L train. Remember, we have to keep the L staying.
But keep in mind, the L is going to continue to run from Bedford Avenue to Rockaway Park.
It is. And this lady here keeps telling me off for calling it the L line closure. It's the tunnel reconstruction project.
Yeah.
Because Canal Street to Bedford Avenue.
The majority of the L line continues to run.
That's right. But can I just comment though, because they did raise a point in my mind. I do think that our trains are unusually bereft of maps and line diagrams. And going forward, we'll fix that with new trains, which
Yeah,
will
because
state
sometimes
of the
I've
art.
seen the R143s on the J line.
I get it.
So they need
I think we can do more right now, even before we get new trains on providing better static information.
Yes.
Yes, will you be looking at changing the MTA policy on transfers with a pay-per-ride MetroCard and the reduced fare MetroCard to allow more than one transfer? Because there's a lot of cases where people need to take multiple bus rides or 2 buses and a train, and they get charged a double fare. So are they going to be looking at something like that? Either a 3-legged transfer all over or unlimited transfers for 2 hours?
Yeah, no, so our transfer policy is dictated by the fare policy. it enters in a committee, the Fair Policy
Yes.
Committee. I know that there are a number of current three-legged transfers that are possible. There will be more coming out with the L tunnel reconstruction. We don't do a good enough job of telling you what those three-legged transfers are. So we do have, we are in the midst of launching a new website. That website will talk a little bit more about the
No, but in general, would they consider adding lease a
You know, I have to tell
limit in
you,
the future?
we
Because I know
are
they-
staring at a giant budget gap right now, right? Giant budget gap. It is, you know, we're looking for more and more service.
Well, they told me that they were
Ridership is
worried about
down.
round trips, people getting a round trip out of it. But if they, especially with the new fare system later on, people have an app, you would know if the person did a round trip or not.
Well,
Even if
we
they
have
had
the
more than one
possibility of
transfer.
fare capping with the new,
Yes.
With capping,
that's something,
Which they are
capping, which
looking
is,
at.
you bought one type of ticket, if you ride more, you're automatic, you know, you're automatically upgraded to a different fare.
There's a lot of people that, you know, don't ride the system every day but need multiple transfers.
Sure.
And it would cut down on accessory trips too.
Sure.
If that was implemented.
And you'll be the last one, sir.
Thank you. Statement is that the B36 in Brooklyn's the worst bus in the world. Please check it out. That's in Sheepshead Bay to Coney Island. Question about customer services. Many subway stations have toilets, loos, but they're all bolted like Fort Knox.
Yep.
Can someone clip those locks and open them up at least some of the time?
Yeah, right.
And put maintainers in. Sheepshead Bay Road has a great set of public toilets, and they're kept pretty decent. But most of the stations are abysmal or locked, and that's wrong. Thank you.
You maybe missed when I said actually in the commitment, we're going to, in the first commitment, we are going to address and renovate and offer proper restroom service at 2 stations, and progressively you'll see us do that. And so I'm kind of on the same page as you. It's one of the many things I noticed when I first came here, that you kept seeing restrooms that were locked. And another thing I hate, and I told my stations people I don't want to see it, I do not want to see handwritten notices. It makes us look like a mom and pop operation. I don't want to see it. And the reason I made that, I happened to be at a station where the toilets just said, the washroom said out of order in handwritten signs, so that caught my attention straight away. So I went and asked the station agent, how long have those restrooms been out of order? And the agent said, well, it's actually the ladies that's got a blocked pipe. Because quite often it's vandalism, right? Someone had shoved something down the bowl. And, that's wrong way around, it was the gents that was out of order. And there was actually nothing wrong with the ladies, but the reason that was shut was because it stopped guys going in to use the women's restroom. So there are reasons why, and because I then did some digging, there's reasons why some of them were shut, and in some cases it was on police advice, being candid with you, because let's say undesirable behaviour was going on in there. But my view was we should either do it properly or not at all. So it's going to take a bit of time, but what we want to do is I'm not going to promise every location, because there may be some that are just no way would we offer service there. But where we do offer restroom service, the restrooms should be open, and they should be properly serviced, and they should be clean. So that's allowed to do this.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure everyone in this room will lend their voice to funding the Fast Forward plan as best we can do.
We need your help. And you know you got my